Maxwell Smith, and today I will be interviewing Theodore Smith. If you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Theodore Smith. I'm a regional sales manager for the Home Depot Corporation.
And specifically, what sector of Home Depot?
I'm within the healthcare sector, so we focus on wholesale B2B sales.
Awesome.
And
Okay, awesome. Today, the topic we're going to be talking about is the treatment, hiring, and firing of employees who belong to a protected class. So, before I start asking you any questions, can you kind of just give a general overview of some of the compliances and standards that your company expects of you when talking about such protected classes?
Yes, all of us as managers are held to strict standards in terms of code and conduct, ethics, and workplace issues. And so we get evaluated every year on three different metrics regarding diversity, equity, and inclusion on our workspace. So that's all managed through Workday, which is our software platform, and we are mandated to comply.
Okay.
Do that.
Awesome. I can kind of bounce off that question. Since the recent administration has put such restrictions on DEI, have you seen in yourself any restrictions in following that, or is it more of an ethical standard to you than following a government compliance?
I have seen certain classes, when I refer to a class, I don't mean to a people, I refer to that as the curriculum. I have seen certain classes disappear off the training platform. There used to be classes that were more focused on terms of responding to how other people feel, particularly that message. So we had a lot of classes around that. So those have all gone. What I do see is a continued adherence to what the standards have always been around, the standards, policies around code and conduct and ethics. That remains. So again, the more how would someone receive a certain message? Like we had a lot of training around that in terms of how a person would receive a message or a not so comfortable message. So that has gone.
Awesome. So that brings me to my first question. Can you walk me through some key differences, or if there are any differences in the hiring or termination process that you go through for an employee of a protected class, if you have to go through more steps with HR or anything, or any documentation requirements that are different?
There are not. We hold everybody to the same standard. I'm sure behind it, there may be, in terms of when a decision is made to terminate somebody, they may take an extra look to make sure we've completed all the steps. But there is no standard one way or the other, meaning, for example, in the hiring process, I am not asked. So I have 10 direct reports that work for me. I'm responsible for hiring and firing those folks and training. I am not held to I don't hold candidates to a different standard from one to the other.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. How do you ensure that the performance expectations are applied to an employee of a protected class are objectively reasonable and consistently applied to all of your employees?
Yeah, so all of the, we call those performance metrics. You may hear the term KPIs, key performance indices is another term for that a lot of companies use. And those are just metrics that any service level employee is expected to meet. And they're the same for everybody. There's nothing physical about our jobs other than they need to get in the car and drive so they're field sales, so they have to go visit their accounts. They're expected to do that, and that's vetted on the front end. If there are limitations within that, then they can't apply to the job, meaning if they can't drive or whatever it may be, they can't. They won't job. So all the metrics, what we call field-based, non-performance-based metrics, are the same for everybody within the healthcare vertical.
Okay, and I think that's an important prereq that your job is mostly virtual or on the go rather than in an office.
Correct. It is on the go.
Okay.
It is. My job is mostly in an office.
Okay, awesome. So, what type of training did you receive and other managers at HC Supply that specifically relate to Title VII compliance to avoid disparate treatment and disparate impact in both your hiring and your training process?
Yeah, I'm looking at our training platform right now, and we have a lot of training that we have to do every year. Hours wise, I think that would probably equate to about 20 hours of
Yearly,
training
annually.
annually that we would have to do on the three on the three I guess HR related trainings. And I'm trying to look for some of those, but it's around code of conduct. Um, Workplace violence is another one that we have to go to, and protocols around that. And then, of course, there is a much more lengthy workplace ethics class that we have to take annually, and you have to take it. It's no exceptions, and you're given ample warning, and it's fun. It's not a bad thing to do. And again, refreshes us on our company's core values.
Okay. And like we were talking about before, HE Supply is a privately owned company. Obviously, it's not government owned. So
We're not government owned, but we're publicly traded.
yeah,
Meaning we're
yeah,
on the stock exchange, so we're owned by the public.
yes.
So
I just mean in the gauge of employment law.
correct.
And we were saying that you go through kind of a lengthy process to determine when to terminate someone using PIPs, performance improvement plans, as well as legal review before deciding to terminate someone. Since you are an at-will company, why does your company and you choose to do that instead of just terminating the employee for any legitimate non-discriminatory reason?
Right. So there's two buckets of folks that you terminate. There what we call there's folks that are bad citizens, meaning they're out there doing egregious activity, illicit activity, behest of the company. Those you can terminate very quickly for, if not on the spot. Again, we call those operators bad citizens. And then you have the folks that just aren't performing, and we hold everyone to the same standard of performance, and we go back to that person who is not performing, and we deliver a business. Well, first we go back to that person who's not performing, and we identify some key areas that they're not performing, and we ask for their response and why they're not performing.
Okay, so it's more of an ethical reason for wanting to keep them rather than just wanting to get rid of them.
Oh, correct.
Giving them the opportunity to improve.
Unless they've done something very egregious, we cannot fire just on the spot.
Okay, awesome. And like what you said before, we kind of talked about that in class too, something with privacy, where an employee does something outside the gauge of work, such as embarrass themselves and how it could relate to the company, and just being able to fire them like that. Is that something you've had to run into before?
Yeah, we had an incident around just something, a political message on social media. One of my peers saw the social media. I escalated it to HR. HR looked at it very quickly, and within 24 hours, that employee was gone.
Okay.
So
awesome. What is the average duration of a performance improvement plan at your company, and what are the measurable criteria that you're looking for the employees to meet?
So in my case, it's about 90 days.
Okay.
So it's not it's you know it's 90 days. So on average, so you can determine what that timeline is. So the timeline is kind of open, but HR will take a look at it and kind of put some. HR will. So we work hand in hand with HR. We have an HR partner that we work with that's just assigned to our team, and they will go through and look at it, and they will help us determine the milestones that person needs to hit in order to remain employed. So I think you asked, what are some of the milestones? So first and foremost, you got to hit your sales number, and then not everybody hits their sales number all the time. But if you see a consistent pattern over time of a person not hitting their sales number, then that raises cause. Like that's when you start looking at things. You can't just fire somebody for not hitting their sales number, but you can put somebody onto a performance improvement plan for not consistently hitting their sales number. So when they do not consistently hit their sales number, then you revisit those metrics. Remember those metrics that everybody's held on? There's 7 of them. You go back and revisit them, and you see where they're failing on those metrics, and those will kind of open up different aspects of why that person is not performing. You then revisit those metrics, and then you put forth milestones. You don't set the milestones any different than what they're already doing. You would say something to the effect, okay, over the next 30 days, I need to see this, this, and this.
Okay. Awesome. So what I'm hearing is not all performance improvement plans are the same. So it's not like 100 units, like a general one sales goal for every employee. It's specific to each employee. You curate the plan specifically to the employee.
The sales plan. So we're talking about 2 different things. You have a sales plan, which is like you need to hit 100. You need to hit 100% to plan. That means you need to sell 230,000 widgets.
But that number is different for each employee.
Yeah.
Okay.
That number.
Since that number is not generalized, what would you do as a manager? Because that could, if they don't hit that number, that could give cause for a protected class to then sue for disparate impact, disparate treatment, saying that number was specifically targeted towards me. What do you do to protect yourself against that?
So we reset that number twice a year, and I am given a number. So I'm in the same boat as them, meaning if they don't perform, I don't perform. So if they don't sell 200,000 widgets and they only sell 100,000 widgets, that means I'm negative 100,000 widgets in my bucket. So I'm not hitting my plan. So when I get the plan, we really spread it around. We make it consistent-ish. There's no big spikes from one sales rep to another in terms of and they need to hit. It's relatively, it is different, but it's consistent. So for example, so like on a percentage basis, it's about anywhere from 8 to 10% per year. They are expected to grow their business, and everybody's in that 8 to 10. You might have somebody at 7, you might have somebody at 11, but they're very consistent. It is. So we have the performance, the job. You've got to hit your sales plan, and then you have the KPIs or the metrics. Those are how you do your job. You've got to see your customer 5 times. You got to see customers 5 times a day. That's a physical visit on site to a different account. You have to have a 2-way conversation 5 times a day with a decision maker at your account. So you're not prospecting. You're not going out and just cold calling. You are given these accounts. So they have to hit 5 a day. They also have to enter opportunities. What did you talk to the customer about? Did you talk about an opportunity for 200,000 widgets? You then have to document that. So it's an opportunity pipeline.
So you collect a lot of documentation to, if you were to get a case, show them we displayed the numbers that you had to get long before. This was not an arbitrary number that we came up with to give an excuse to fire you. Keep that documentation.
100%. They are well aware of what the metrics are. It's all we talk about with them.
Okay.
We, as collectively and individually, it's what we talk about is these performance indicators. We just don't pull them out of the blue. They are also delivered them again twice per year. They're reset at the half of the year, and they're presented back to them, and so they're well aware. And it's incumbent here. It's incumbent upon the manager to implement that, measure it, and discuss it as they're going. So again, I can't just wake up 3 months from now and say, "Oh, I'm going to fire this guy for not selling 200,000 widgets." It's a conversation that
they're aware of what they need to do long before
If you're a good manager, they are well aware that it's coming. Awesome. And once we do put them on a performance plan, we give them ample runway to improve.
Okay, sweet. So since Title VII obviously strictly prohibits retaliation, what is the manager's process if an employee initiates a protected activity such as filing a complaint with the EEOC after either being placed on a PIP or just being terminated?
It doesn't reach my level unless it's gone really bad, and it never has for me. I've had to terminate, actually I was just talking to a colleague about this last night, I've terminated 8 people in the last 6 years. 7 years, sorry. I've terminated 8 people. So it's really difficult. In terms of retaliation, nobody has come back to me personally. Only one time. So that goes, obviously, we have a massive legal team that goes through those guys. Only one time has legal called me up and just kind of wanted to double check on something like, hey, can you just kind of, they asked me 2 questions. We're like, okay. It's out of my hands pretty much. To that, when we fire somebody, it has been put through legal. So we will go to HR and say, okay, they have not met these metrics or these KPIs within the performance improvement plan. You need to, HR will say, okay, and HR is checking in with us too, every 30 days on the 90-day performance improvement plan. And then on the 90th day, thereabouts, they will go to legal and say, hey, do we have a case to terminate? And they will come back in a couple of days, say yes or no. It's frustrating when you get the no, which does happen. So they are very sensitive to terminating folks. Just
okay. And where does that kind of sensitivity come from? Does it come from kind of the ethical obligation of the company to want to keep employees and not throw them on the street, or does it come from a kind of protecting your own butts sort of view?
Both. I think it's both. If you look at the message that we get from corporate, it's a lot of, and it's a lot of high ethical standards. It's a lot of communication that we get. They do care about the employees. A lot of work-life balance messaging we get. So I think it's both. The company generally does care for folks to be here and be happy and work and have sustainable wages and take care of their family and have a long career. The company definitely does care because they don't want high turnover. It's costly, it's expensive. You got to train, retrain, poor customer service, you end up with poor business processes if you're constantly terminating and hiring. And then, of course, there's definitely a component of protecting themselves legally.
Okay. Sweet. So obviously when we talk about protected classes, I'm guessing maybe the most common worry for someone in this day and age when firing, worried about like getting hit with a EEOC charge or something, is most likely race or gender, but not necessarily with Title VII, but also religion and disability is a protected class that could get you in trouble. Have you ever had a scenario, or do you know of a scenario where you've had to engage in the interactive process to provide such an accommodation for either someone's religion or a disability?
Not religion, but disability. I have, and that's not a big process. I had. She still works for us. She was in a car accident, so she was out for 3 months, and then she came in, and so she had to have accommodations. And it's literally a word that we use with HR. So they set forth accommodations for that resource. She. She wasn't able to go out in the field, and then she kind of escalated. She was able to go out in the field to visit customers after a month, and then it was 1 visit a day. So it just kind of goes up.
She wasn't also an office. She wasn't an office employee, I'm guessing.
No, she was she works for me. She was a field representative. That means she's out in the field in her car making visits to facilities.
Okay. Did you have any say in what the accommodation would be? So that it didn't give an undue burden to the company?
Yes, and we got a doctor's note too. So,
okay. Awesome.
from their doctor. So the doctor will, it's part of a process. So the doctor actually fills out a form as well.
Sweet. All right, I think that's all the questions I have for you. Thank you for kind of taking me through that. Do you have any questions for me?
I do not. I apologize. I don't know the exact. I'm looking here. I'm looking for the exact name of our course training material, but I don't have any that's due, so that's why I don't see any in my queue that need. No, other than that, I don't have any questions. It was a pleasure to speak with you.
Awesome. Okay.
Heard you on your, and good job.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
All right. Bye.